Let's now review troubleshooting device security. One of the primary Windows 10 security and protection features is BitLocker Drive Encryption. BitLocker allows data stored on fixed and removable drives to be encrypted, which helps prevent unauthorized access and data loss. BitLocker Drive Encryption is a feature that is included with the Pro, Enterprise, and Education versions of Windows 10. BitLocker works best when the encryption unlock keys are stored in the Trusted Platform Module or TPM chip on the motherboard. You can choose what data is encrypted, for example, the entire disk drive or removable USB thumb drive. You also have a choice of how to unlock the drive. Let's take a look. Not all BitLocker implementations are identical. Some devices don't have a TPM chip, and others may require additional key protectors before the machine will boot. You can see the different key protectors that can be used to unlock a BitLocker encrypted device on screen. For example, entering a PIN or startup key, in addition to having a TPM, acts to provide multi-factor authentication. You can add additional BitLocker authentication methods to the boot process, such as PIN, network key, and startup key. But in practice, the TPM-only authentication mode is the easiest to deploy, manage, and use. It's also the most popular. Remember that our BitLocker encrypted drive is always encrypted, and only when you sign into your Windows device will you be able to view your files. Let's take a look at the mechanism that allows you to see the BitLocker encrypted files on a Windows 10 PC. On my demo PC, I'll launch system information and then search for BitLocker. Here we can see the FVVol kernel level driver. Let's take a look. The BitLocker Drive Encryption Filter Driver Service is a kernel mode driver and is used to allow Windows to read the encrypted data contained on a BitLocker encrypted disk. FVVol stands for Full Volume Encryption Volume, and this driver is only decrypted once all the other integrity checks have been passed. If an encrypted BitLocker drive is lost or stolen, then the data on the drive cannot be accessed by a third party due to the strong encryption employed by BitLocker. The date on the drive can only be recovered if you have the BitLocker recovery password or the recovery key. Without the key, the data will remain secured and the encrypted drive unrecoverable. When you first set up BitLocker encryption, you're prompted to create a BitLocker recovery key, and it's pretty important that this is created. There are several reasons why a device might go into recovery mode and require the use of a recovery key. These include the TPM chip fails to automatically unload the drive. Due to an error with the TPM chip, you need to access an encrypted hard drive on a different device. Remember, the encrypted hard drive and the device's TPM chip are associated together. The TPM chip may have locked you out, for example, due to entering the unlock PIN wrong too many times. When you create your BitLocker recovery key, you need to save the details in a secure location. You'll be prompted to save the recovery key information during the setup process. There are several options that you can choose. These include save it to a file such as a USB thumb drive, which then needs to be, or somewhere that is not encrypted. You can print off the recovery key. You can store it in a OneDrive account. You can store it in Microsoft Intune or in Azure Active Directory. On the BitLocker page, which allows you to back up your recovery key, there's a link to finding your keys. Let's click that link. Here you can see all of the different locations available. The first thing you need to do when you're experiencing problems with BitLocker is locate your recovery key. If your TPM is not unlocking your device at boot time, then you'll see the blue BitLocker recovery error screen where you can enter your recovery key. Alternatively, if you're within Windows, for example, if the issue is regarding an encrypted USB stick, then you can use the BitLocker area of the control panel and select the Unlock Drive option and then enter your recovery key when requested. And if you need to move a BitLocker encrypted hard drive from one device to another, perhaps due to device failure, then you'll install the hard drive in a new computer. Start the new device in the Windows Recovery Environment mode, and during the boot process, enter the recovery key information when prompted. Then once you're in Windows, don't forget to remove the old protector and add a new protector to the drive. We saw in an earlier video that you can store BitLocker recovery keys in different cloud locations. These include OneDrive, Azure Active Directory, and Microsoft Intune. Let's take a look at how to use cloud-stored recovery keys with BitLocker. OneDrive provides 5 GB of free cloud storage offered by Microsoft for personal use. When you create a Windows account, for example, a Hotmail or Xbox Live account, you're provided with 5 GB of cloud storage space. OneDrive can be accessed via web browser or integrated with Windows Explorer. You can also use OneDrive to save photos, videos, and documents, and even BitLocker recovery keys. Within an enterprise, Azure Active Directory or Azure AD authenticates end users and devices to allow access to corporate resources and applications. It consists of a simple cloud-based database of users and devices together with their associated permissions. Azure AD also provides single sign-on, which allows users to use just one username and password to access a multitude of cloud services and resources to which they've been granted access. Microsoft Intune is a mobile device management solution. Devices are enrolled into Intune so that they can be managed using Intune. You then control the device configuration, security, and manage access and deploy, as, for example, you can create a policy to block access to corporate data. The Windows 10 devices that are not configured to use BitLocker encryption. If you select the option to save your recovery key in a Microsoft account, then you'll need to retrieve the recovery key from OneDrive. However, rather than logging on directly to your OneDrive account, you'll need to use the OneDrive URL shown on screen. You'll then need to provide your Microsoft account details. If you're using an untrusted browser, you may be asked to enter the verification code that Microsoft will send to the email address associated with your Microsoft account. And once you've entered the login details, you can access your recovery keys as shown on screen. I have several devices and I blanked out the 48-digit keys. If a corporate device is joined to Azure AD and BitLocker encrypted, then you also have the option to store the recovery keys in Azure AD or Microsoft Intune if you use MDM. An administrator can use the Azure AD Admin Console or the Intune portal to retrieve the key by navigating to the list of users in the Admin Center, selecting the relevant user, and then viewing the devices associated with that user. When you select the device that needs to be recovered, you can then find the recovery key within the device information section as shown on screen. The last option is to access a recovery key from Microsoft Intune. By using the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center, you can view a list of enrolled devices. The device which needs to be recovered can be selected from the list of all devices. When an administrator drills down for more information, they can view the recovery key information for that device. The information is actually stored in Azure AD, but it can also be viewed in Intune. Your end users can also retrieve their own Azure AD recovery keys from a website using the URL shown on screen. They'll need to log on using their Azure AD credentials and then click Profile. And then you'll see a list of all the devices that the user has logged on to and the information relating to the BitLocker key. The BitLocker key can then be exposed for use now that I've blanked out the key ID and the recovery key. Let's drop onto our demo environment and see how we can retrieve a cloud-stored BitLocker recovery key. I'll view the information using Microsoft Intune, which we can then use to recover a BitLocker encrypted hard drive. I have a Microsoft 365 subscription, and I'll log into my Endpoint Manager Admin Center. On the left-hand side menu, I'll click the link for devices, and then click All Devices. I need to find the device that needs to be recovered, and I can see there is one on this list, the Autopilot Demo 1. I'll click the device name and view more details. The sub-menu on the left-hand side will now show options for my specific device. I'll select the recovery keys underneath the monitor section. And here we can see the recovery key information is displayed. I can see the recovery key ID, the BitLocker recovery key, and the drive type that this relates to. I can click the icon and copy the text to clipboard. I can print this out or send it to a help desk technician to help recover the drive. We'd use this information on the startup blue screen on the device to unlock it. One of the challenges for enterprises is how to efficiently manage BitLocker keys in a domain environment. Enterprises could use a tool called Microsoft BitLocker Administration and Monitoring, or MBM. This tool allowed administrators to manage domain joint BitLocker encrypted clients and their keys. This functionality is now provided in Config Manager, and the MBM tool itself is an extended support. Keys need to be stored securely and only accessed by authorized personnel who need to recover protected drives. In addition, once a recovery key has been used or exposed, it needs to be discarded and a new key generated. The new BitLocker feature introduced at the end of 2019 is called Key Rotation. This helps enterprises to manage encryption keys and is used for Intune managed Windows 10 devices. The feature allows the recovery password to be automatically refreshed after the operating system drive has been recovered or on demand. There are a number of prerequisites for this feature. These include the device must be running Windows 10 version 1909 or higher. The device needs to be Azure AD or hybrid Azure AD joined, and they must be enrolled into a management solution such as Intune. If you have the prerequisites in place, you can enable this feature using an endpoint protection configuration profile in Intune. You then deploy the profile by assigning it to a security group containing your devices. A couple of essential items that need to be enabled in the profile photo work include save BitLocker recovery information to the Azure Active Directory and configure the client-driven recovery password rotation setting. Both are shown on screen once you've configured the feature. You can also trigger a BitLocker key rotation manually from the Intune portal. This will delete all existing recovery passwords, and a new single recovery password will be created, and our backup of it will be stored in Azure AD.